Our next question is about housing. How will Black communities gain from your housing platform in a world that has normalized racial disparities in home ownership and rental stability? And does your platform speak to environmental racism? What concrete steps are being taken to protect Black communities?
Yeah, I'm going to start with rent because so many people feel so vulnerable due to the fact that they don't have proper protections as renters. And I want to give a quick shout out to my colleague Ashlyn Clancy, the MPP for Kitchener Centre, who's put forward the most comprehensive bill to protect renters ever introduced in the Ontario legislature, to address above guideline rent increases, to bring back rent control to all buildings, to address what's called vacancy control. So when between tenancies, oftentimes rents get raised really high before the new tenant comes in, so preventing that from happening, putting significant restrictions around rent evictions. So many people are experiencing rent evictions right now, and so making sure we protect renters is just critically important. But we also have to recognize that we have a whole generation of young people who are wondering if they'll ever be able to own a home given the housing market. And so we've put forward a plan called a first-time homebuyers plan that would legalize fourplexes and four-story as of right across the province to get rid of the zoning restrictions that is making it harder to build homes that people can afford in the communities they know and love. Same way with 6 to 11-story buildings along major transportation and transit corridors in large urban centers. So we can quickly build homes where we already have infrastructure in place and do it faster so it's more affordable. And then removing the fees and taxes on starter homes. So homes under 2,000 square feet within existing urban boundaries that can save first-time homebuyers up to $150,000 on a home. And that is especially going to benefit people who have been historically discriminated against or kept out of the housing market to be able to actually get into the housing market. And then you're going to ask me, how are you going to pay for all this? And we've committed to having an affordable communities fund that would help municipalities be able to build housing enabling infrastructure and other community hubs and other things that make your community a vibrant and vital place to live, including funding community organizations, like cultural community organizations that make communities a more vibrant place to live. And then the final piece of that is just a commitment to building nonprofit co-op, deeply affordable homes. I think I mentioned previously, and I want to say this stat again, because it's something that just really touches me. 93% of the deeply affordable homes built in Ontario were built before 1995. No wonder we have 81,000 people experiencing homelessness in this province. It's completely unacceptable. Government has to get back into providing government-assisted, deeply affordable nonprofit and co-op housing, including permanent supportive housing with wraparound mental health and addiction supports. And I know you're wanting me to speak directly to a Black audience, but I also want to speak directly to an Indigenous audience, because a disproportionate number of people experiencing homelessness are Indigenous people. And part of our plan has a commitment to 22,000 Indigenous-led, Indigenous-owned, supportive and deeply affordable homes, because that's going to be an important part of ensuring that everyone in our society, in our community, has the human right to housing.
So important. Well, I would start by saying again, that everything we do, I think, and this is throughout our platform, is that whole of government approach. So everything you do, whether you're talking about housing or climate action and all kinds of things, are all include looking at things through that lens of anti-racism, and particularly anti-Black racism. So we have a program that we're proposing called Homes Ontario, which would involve the construction or the acquisition, the repair of 300,000 permanently affordable homes. And that means it could be co-ops, rent geared to income, lots of different options like that, which are truly affordable. And that's really important because we haven't done that in the province of Ontario since, gosh, in 30 years, since the mid 90s, when liberal and conservative governments canceled that kind of home building. And so we think it's really important that government is making that happen. And part of the reason I believe in that, and I think it's relevant to the question you asked, is it allows us to also do things like protecting green space and neighborhoods, making it easier to build all kinds of new homes, and making sure there's different kinds of housing in different neighborhoods. It also means we're also going to protect renters, bringing back real rent control, closing the loopholes that exist, and then working with community to ensure that there's a community benefit plan to ensure that local communities benefit from all infrastructure projects. We've seen that work. I've seen that work personally in some of the projects that in the city of Toronto, the big infrastructure projects, and have really benefited communities, specifically Black community members in close to my riding. It can be extremely important and has a big impact in communities. And while we're at it, I did want to mention that I think, in everything we do, we want to be looking at how we build generational wealth, especially through things like Black business. So we're taking recommendations that were given to us from the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce to really try to clear systemic barriers for Black entrepreneurs. I think right now about meeting a Black builder, developer, small developer in Windsor recently, we talked a lot about some of the systemic barriers to building and to creating that kind of housing that will serve so many that are just underserved in our communities. And I think there's lots of ways we can work to support Black business as well in getting this done.